Question 34 is about the history of shipbuilding materials, and there's quite a simple sequence you've got to go through for this question. First of all, you need to understand that wood was one of the first shipbuilding materials, but you need to say why it was the first shipbuilding material. But there were obviously some problems with wood being a shipping material, so they moved to other materials. And the first material they started replacing ships with, they didn't make ships completely out of these, but they started using copper alloys to improve the ship. And you've got to detail whereabouts on the ship do they use copper alloys, how do they use them, and why did they use them. The next big improvement to shipmaking was basically the introduction of iron, going from iron-cladded ships to iron-hulled ships. And what were the big advantages of iron? How was the iron used? But there was also some problems with using iron, particularly in an ocean or warm ocean environment. Some of these were partially solved, these problems, by going to steel, which is an iron-carbon alloy of a very low carbon concentration. And what were the advantages of steel? But what are still the problems that exist with steel ships? And even though it's got problems, why is it still the #1 material to make ships out of? It has got some problems, particularly as far as the ocean's concerned, but it's still the most common shipbuilding material. So why is that? And then you've got to talk about modern alloys. And you've got to talk about where they're used. Not necessarily these alloys aren't used to make the entire ship, but they're used on the ship for their certain properties. And why do we use these particular alloys? And you might want to consider bronze, or consider brass, stainless steel, aluminium, titanium, and the light alloys, copper, nickel alloys, and you might want to also consider composites. And just as an example, you might talk about how bronze is used in the propellers of ships because it is quite strong, and it's got the advantage over steel that it's got very, very, very high wear resistance and corrosion resistance, and therefore they can make propellers out of it. So for each of these modern alloys, you need to detail exactly where in the ship it's used and why it's used for that particular job.